everybody. Welcome to another edition of Critical Conversations. Let's make sure. Yep, okay, we've got sound. Yeah, I thought I'd try a little different music this week. As you can see, I'm by myself. I'm sorry, guys. Mel is definitely under the weather today. It just came on. We were planning on doing this together, and she was really disappointed she couldn't be here. But it is good to be here on this Friday. Yeah, sorry. Glad we're coming across well. Good. The stream chat is now working. I was frantically rebooting my computer up until about 60 seconds ago or so, trying to get the stream chat to start coming on because it wasn't on for all the pre stuff when you guys were talking before the show. All right, anyway, we got that taken care of. We are here, and yes, we are joined by Seven. There he is on his throne on the couch in the living room, but he, as you can see, alive and well, and that tail just seems to have a little bit of a life of its own. He's our little cutie, though. We do love him. All right. So anyway, hey guys. So this is Critical Conversations for the 6th of November, 2020. And hey, anybody hear anything about the election? Been a little bit nuts this week, hasn't it? We knew this was going to be this way, of course. I mean, if we're being honest, we knew it wasn't going to be such a wonderful week. There was going to be a lot of nail biting, a lot of freaking out, a lot of concern. And unfortunately, even as Colbert mentioned, it's easy to predict certain things with our leader, our commander-in-chief guy right now. But it's so disappointing to see it play out, to see the vain, really silly accusations of voter fraud, election fraud, all this other nonsense, Yeah, so it's a little rough to see that from the top. But as Xenu and others, and as is coming to my head here right now, we did have some interesting and good results from this election already nailed down. One of them being the former LA County DA, Jackie Lacey, lost the election to keep her seat for a third term to George Gascon. 54 to Lacey's 46, according to the comment here, and I'll go with that. For those who don't know or have no idea why this would be significant to me, the DA for LA, Jackie Lacey, sat on Danny Masterson's case for years, and Danny Masterson is accused and has been indicted on several counts of sexual assault, rape, etc., and he's in a lot of trouble. And Jackie Lacey, this information's been known for years. The women who have come forward on this were incredibly brave and had to undergo a lot, and probably still right now are undergoing a lot of Scientology harassment and a lot of nonsense for speaking up. It is a real work sometimes to get justice in this world, and they are working very hard to make that happen. And Scientology does everything it can to, erect barriers in that path. And Danny Masterson and Scientology are pretty irrevocably linked publicly at this point. And Danny Masterson has in no way, shape, or form said that he's not a Scientologist or isn't practicing Scientology, even though I kind of suspect he hasn't and isn't and hasn't been practicing for quite some time. But regardless of that, Jackie Lacey sat on this case for years and didn't move it forward off of her desk, out of her office. And that's not cool. That is really not okay. Make a decision one way or the other, but don't keep everybody hanging for years on such an important case. So we're happy to see her go. Why she did that? Was she afraid of the Church of Scientology? Probably. Was she paid off by Scientology? Possibly. Anything's possible, but the objective truth is she sat on it. We don't really know why, but we are happy to see her go. All right, so there you go. And I love the comments. You guys are so awesome with this stuff. I got a little real community coming together here, don't we? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's very interesting. Plaintiff's attorney Marcy Hamilton said the Masterson case dealt with the fundamental right to exit a church. Very interesting. So, okay. So that's one good result was Jackie Lacey out of there. And I believe, if I'm remembering right, I wasn't it Gascon who was quoted as saying he would pick that case up or he would go after it if she didn't. Anyway, it's now being gone after, and we are all very happy about that. I very much want to see Danny Masterson pay for his crimes if he did indeed commit them, and I believe that he did, because the church's cover-up activities and all of that are well known, and because Danny Masterson himself and his proclivities and nonsense behavior that he's been getting up to for years is also not a secret in Hollywood or even in the world of Scientology. I remember as a Sea Org member seeing reports on Danny Masterson specifically. I wasn't supposed to see them, but they crossed they were in the data and there it was. And sometimes you see things you're not supposed to see. So anyway, okay, so we're happy about that. 4 states, I believe, passed recreational marijuana laws. So we've got, I think, 30 states now that have where marijuana is legal medicinally or recreationally. And it's interesting when you look at the map and you see the states that are not legal at all. Very interesting which states those are. And yes, exactly. And then as Renee brings up here, yes, Oregon went even further. Now, Oregon this year passed a law that really blew me away because I didn't think this was going to come I thought, I was really conservative, I guess. I thought it was probably going to be another 5, maybe 10 years before this kind of law would be passed. And specifically what Oregon did is they said, hey, personal amounts, not seller distributor amounts, but personal amounts, dime bags, little tiny, what you can carry around in your pocket, I believe, basically, of any hard drug is basically like it's decriminalized. It's not legalized, it's decriminalized. I think there's a difference between those two things if we get into the weeds on it. But yeah, this is a real big deal. I mean, heroin, meth, LSD, shrooms, all of it. In theory, I believe that this is a good idea. But there are so many contingencies on that, right? Interesting part of the law, by the way, in Oregon, and contributing to why I believe this might be a positive move, is because they're going to use some of the marijuana money that they're making, and they are making some pretty sweet marijuana money out there in Oregon, just like we are here in Denver, Washington, etc. They're going to use some of that money to fund rehab, addiction therapy, addiction assistance help for people in the state of Oregon. And that's a big deal because decriminalizing the addiction side of the drug epidemic and dealing with it as a medical problem more than a criminal problem, I believe that time has definitely come. We are way past time for that. The war on drugs has been shown to be an abysmal failure. And I'm not suggesting that we all do what Oregon is doing, but I'm very interested to see how this rolls out. I've been watching with interest some of what's been going on in Portugal, where they have decriminalized a lot of, or if not all of the hard drugs too, as I understand it, and they are doing a lot on the addiction therapy, medical side of helping people off of these hard drugs who want to be off of them or don't want to be addicted to them. So it's interesting. We'll have to see how this rolls out. It's really too early to tell one way or the other yet whether we've got an effective thing here, but we have the makings of what I think could be a new way of dealing with the drug problem, because we've seen that dealing with it with abject force and legal consequences and throwing people in prison and 3 strikes laws, all of it, total nonsense. None of it is working at all. If you want to stop, people from taking drugs, that ain't the way to do it. Just like if you want to get people off of cults, the way to do it is not by banning cults. It doesn't work that way. People who, when you start banning things, you start making things illegal, you start making them difficult. I mean, didn't we already learn our lessons from Prohibition in the United States? Apparently not. You know, we're the kind of people who need to be bonked on the head a few times more than you would think in order to get the lesson across. So yeah. All right. So that's yeah. Yeah, exactly. Ain't gonna make him turn around. Yeah, right? Kathleen Madigan said they should fly in some dealers from Las Vegas to count the votes, according to Ann here. That's great. Yeah, good stuff. So that's kind of what's happening there. Now, oh, good. We've got a call in the queue. I was just about to say, phone number 984-214-4154 if you want to call in and chat. So let me pick up this call here. And hello, you are on.
Hello.
Hi. Hey, who's this?
Hey, Chris. Chris, how are you?
Oh, hey, Chris. I am good. How can I help you this evening? What would you like to talk about?
So I thought maybe we'd talk a little more about Danny Masterson in that case, and maybe bring in the arbitration deal, because that's the big thing. I think Tony was talking about that today on his blog.
That's right.
Right? And what your thoughts are? Do you think they're going to get it? Do you think they're going to, and maybe the COMEV and what that actually is, and how an actual court can force these people. Now, especially in the Danny Masterson case, these women were raped, and they're going to force these women to be held accountable to basically their rapist. Because Danny Masterson is held by the same rules as Scientology. So, I mean, it's the same. If they're going to be in a COMEV, they're going to be arguing with Danny, basically.
Yeah, it's pretty silly. And, we have talked, I think last week did a podcast on the arbitration stuff and on some legal points I had where I talked to a lawyer about some of that stuff. And this arbitration thing is it's a real scam, man. It's really quite something. I mean, it's not in all cases, but in Scientology's case, Scientology should not be settling anything with religious arbitration. It's a destructive cult. So I definitely have a lot of things to say about that. I think that this case in particular should be, any judge going anywhere near this one with these actual rape charges and criminal indictment having happened. I think any judge worth his salt would look at that and go, yeah, no, we're not touching. No, you're not going to turn this into religious arbitration.
I totally agree with that. But do you think it's actually going to happen with the two previous rulings?
Well, this is the thing. This is a little bit of a different context because of those criminal charges and the active case of that. So there is a little bit of a difference here. And also, I was looking while you were talking at the beginning here. There's no update on Tony's blog from today on this. So we only know that it was going into court today to happen, but we don't know the result.
Right.
I would like, obviously my fingers are crossed that it does not go in that direction. There is nothing good down that road for any of the victims. The bias is clear. Scientology is not going to give them anything resembling a fair shake. And I don't know at this point that any of them would even want to try after Luis Garcia showed us exactly what happens when you have to go in with this.
I'm curious. You don't think that they would offer Valerie, because Valerie is now in that same boat, where she's forced now to do this arbitration. You don't think you don't think they would offer Valerie maybe a little more than he did the Garcias, the nobodies?
No, I don't think they're going to offer Valerie.
If Valerie does go. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying I don't see why they would be any. Are you asking me would Scientology would be treating Valerie differently?
Correct. Maybe they just sign off and say, hey, Valerie, here's $2 million. Go away.
Oh no, because they don't have to. And they don't have to, right? It's going to be not one red dime for, Wallersheim all over again, right? Not one, or not one thin dime, I think they said, right? So it's going to be that all over again. Miscavige is vindictive. Let's remember that. He wants to hurt people. He gets off on it. So as much pain as he can cause these people, and I'm positive that that's why Valerie, I believe, has already said, I could be wrong here, but I believe she said, no way am I going into some arbitration situation, nor should she, because honestly, it's just going to re-traumatize her.
Okay, I get that. I totally understand that, and Valerie obviously has her own rights. But if Valerie doesn't do the arbitration, then she has no more legal recourse. It all stops for Valerie, right? If
That's
she doesn't
basically
go through the arbitration. Yeah.
That's right. But watching what happened with Luis after he went through the arbitration, why would she? I mean, it's not like he had it's not like he had a leg to stand on when he said, okay, judge, I went through the arbitration and they treated me like shit and it was a kangaroo court. How about some justice now? And the judges went, yeah, no, I don't think so. And that was that. If I'm remembering it right.
You are. No. I agree. I think you're totally correct when you say that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what happened.
Yeah. I mean, I know for myself, I wouldn't do it. No way.
Did you ever have a comment when you were in there? When you were in the C word?
I did. Let me, since a couple commenters here have no idea what we're talking about, let me just clue them in real fast. Sure. That today there was a court. There's these women bringing a suit against Danny Masterson, as well as criminal charges. Okay.
Two suits, civil and criminal.
Yeah, exactly. So the civil suits are decided in a civil court. The criminal charges are brought and decided in criminal court. Two different things. In the civil court, where they are filing a lawsuit where they could be potentially awarded damages for for what was done to them, that's the civil suit. That's what a civil suit is about. It's about rewarding, in damages. You're not going to send somebody to jail off of a lawsuit. So in that case, though, the legal hurdle is that according to contract law, that all Scientologists have signed on the dotted line, the contracts that they signed say, if you have a future problem with the Church of Scientology, you will not go to a court of law, you will come to us, and we will do a religious arbitration for you. And Scientologists in good standing will be brought together, and they will decide the specifics of the case. And this is standard legal language at this point, because religious arbitration is very broadly used, and we talked about it a couple weeks ago on this very show. So you can check that out also in the reruns. But that's what we're talking about right now. So please go on.
Okay, good. So, again, I feel bad for Valerie, right?
Yep.
And also just as somebody, that wants to see something happen.
Yep.
Like I think all of us who watch this channel. And it's sad to know that Valerie's story stops here. And Valerie is worth a lot in salt. I've talked to her. She's a very nice person. And I would do just like Lewis would in that situation, because why quit? Why quit now? Sit there, have your smile, laugh at what they say, and go know that it is what it is, and try. Because you're right. They didn't, just like with the Garcias, they didn't. They said, hey, well, it's a new judge, a new case, a new trial, and especially with Danny Masterson, also the news and other stuff. A court case comes down to a judge, a person.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I see your point. I don't think you're totally off base here, but let me point one other thing out, though, about Valerie's case. This case got thrown out on the religious arbitration clause of the contract that she signed. She could bring another case. She could refile from scratch with a whole different strategy to avoid and counter this contract law point. Because there's some workaround for this, but we don't yet know what it is. And that's what needs to be established, is a solid workaround for victims of cult trauma to this kind of thing. Because believe me, Scientology isn't the only group watching or using contracts to enforce their will this way. And there are other cults watching what Scientology is doing right now and going, oh, yeah, we need to do that. So this is only going to become more of a problem unless this gets a runaround. And that's what we need right now is a workaround for this. So Valerie or someone else can bring a new case against the Church of Scientology for the same circumstances, but, you know, perhaps brought around in a different way. I believe that that's possible for her. I don't think it's a one shot and you shot your wad and that's all you get. I think she has more avenues open to her on that.
That is prolific because honestly, I don't think I've thought about that. And I've looked at this 1,000 ways, and you're absolutely correct. He can sue for a different reason or right. But I think, also there's money involved. To fight Scientology is millions of dollars.
That's right. That's right. And it's not cheap bringing litigation against them. They will use every trick. Right.
So, very true. So, moving on, maybe, so I saw a post maybe on Facebook. It was Mary Kahn. I just wanted to plug The Aftermath on Netflix. I think that's a really good thing.
Yes. I should have mentioned that.
Right
yeah,
now.
That's right.
I saw, Mary Kahn's episode was trending on Netflix, and I think that's really good. And someone also said, too, I don't know if anybody's watching overseas, but if you can't get the Netflix stream, if you're overseas or in a different country or something, a quick VPN, or even if you go through .onion, if you just do Netflix.onion, that will reroute your to wherever you want. It's super easy, and then you can watch obviously The Aftermath on Netflix, which is really cool.
Well, isn't that interesting? I didn't know about the Netflix.onion. I knew about the VPN trick.
Right, it's just an easy way to mask your IP. So a VPN is a way to mask your IP address, and that's all you're doing.
That's right.
.onion will do it, and then that's great. Deep web type stuff, nerdy stuff. It's okay. But I just want to make sure that everybody has seen those. The show is great, and they really get it across. And obviously, it pisses Dave off. I'm sure. And that's another thing I didn't know. I haven't seen anything where Scientology is fighting Netflix. I'm sure that they are, but I don't think it's come to light yet that they're fighting them.
No, I haven't seen.
And I wonder if you maybe had some. I wonder if you had some info on that.
Yeah, no, I have not heard word one about it. I actually would be a little surprised if they tried. I mean, given the fact that Scientology did everything they tried or could do when it was airing live on A&E. I mean, the chance of getting it off of Netflix at this point is about 0.0%. So that's kind of interesting.
Well, we know that, but we also know Scientology, so they have to do something. You have to make it go. They have to make it go right.
Yeah, that's true. That's very, very true. There could very well be pressure being applied behind the scenes, but the fact that it's up there, I think it's too late. I think they, if they were trying to get it taken down or removed or whatever, I haven't heard anything about it. Let me put it that way.
Right. Okay, good. Which is a huge win for our group and Mike and Leah and and everybody that was on the show, really, because people saw the A&E show, but now that it's on Netflix, I think there's a huge amount, and I also think that's good for these cases. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
The more. And again, all they have to do is influence one judge, right? So if the judge watches, did any of these judges watch The Aftermath? I think they should have to. I really think they should have to because they're obviously not educated on. I don't know if they are or they aren't, but it sure doesn't seem that way.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. Remember, I don't know if you've seen this or checked it out yet or not, and I got a lot to say about this. I don't know if it's going to come up too much tonight. But there's this show called The Vow on HBO right now.
Oh, geez, are you kidding me?
Yeah, right.
So Tony covered that, of course.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Can you imagine? If that was applied to Scientology? Like, if what happened with them, that's what should happen. Like, they treated, they fixed it, they did it, they saw what was happening, and they fixed it. You know, this guy's in jail for what was 102 years,
120 years
with his good time.
That's right. And
So,
I'll tell you right
right.
now that sentence did scare David Miscavige. It did. There's no question about it.
Really? Do you think
Absolutely.
Do you honestly think that?
Yes, I honestly, that's why I'm saying it, because I absolutely honestly believe that. These are the kind of things David Miscavige pays attention to. And let's remember that the narcissist cult leader mindset includes a very hyperbolic amount of paranoia. Right?
True.
And from inside and outside, you've got enemies everywhere. And legally, Miscavige is obsessed with legal. The guy's been on legal for decades. He loves it. I remember hearing about that when I was in the church. There were people who were on legal lines who would, I just cross-flow stuff. It's not stuff so much stuff you're not even supposed to hear. But you just cross-flow this stuff, about how Miscavige loves to hobby horse on legal. And it's because he's so damn paranoid about it. And it's also one of the most effective tools he can use to beat people and harass people with. So, for him,
that's his win.
Yeah.
That's his win.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So anyway, the point I wanted to make, though, about bringing up the vow is I think it was Susan D., one of the women in that, who had been one of the original people to exit and take on NXIVM, because the vow is about NXIVM. And the parallels between NXIVM and Scientology are almost one for one. It is amazing. There's obviously so much stuff that Raniere took from Scientology. But regardless of that, there was one line she said that I thought was applicable to our conversation, and that was, she said it took her like 3 months to educate her judge on what NXIVM actually was. That's the kind of work that has to be done with Scientology in the courtroom too. And we never even seem to get there because they can't get past all the preliminary stuff to even hold a damn trial. And believe me, Scientology does that on purpose. That's by design in their legal strategy. They don't want
and I think that comes down to the religious aspect.
Yes, it does.
Because Raniere wasn't.
Yes,
It wasn't a religion. It was a self-help.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly what it was. It was self-help. Oh, I think I lost one of the callers there. We've been on for a little while. I'm sorry about that. I think that was Henny. Give me a call back, Henny. Just to wrap up our call here. The key difference between NXIVM is NXIVM was originally positioned and continued as a religious self-help group, or not non-religious, business-oriented self-help. And Scientology, of course, has been a religion. And the difference there is pretty important when it comes to how Scientology has gained legal protection as a religion. Whereas Raniere did not have those protections, and they came straight after him for the, branding women and the sex cult and all that other crap he was up to.
Okay, but Miscavige has done just as bad. The stuff,
Oh, yeah. Definitely just as bad. Worse in many ways, but Miscavige is just beating the shit out of people.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
But they get away with it because of this religion thing, and it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating for us. And but we'll figure it out. This hurdle will be, gotten over. We just need to figure out how.
If you had to give a timeline to Scientology's demise, you can't. Billions of dollars, right? Yeah. I don't know, another 50 years?
Easily. Even if it all fell apart right now, the splinter groups, the independent Scientology, all of that, right? The way the mother church would break up, if that's how it went, if somebody else didn't step
Right.
up and assume control, if a board of people, like what happened with Jehovah's Witnesses, if that didn't happen, I mean, there's so many possibilities. Making predictions about it is a little bit of a fool's errand. I've always said,
Yeah,
and I haven't
that's true.
always said this, but I've started saying the context of how the collapse happens is everything to what's going to happen with it.
Other than inevitable, I think.
Oh,
I
yes,
think,
definitely.
Hopefully we can.
Yeah,
Hopefully
yeah,
inevitable, right?
absolutely.
And
It's not a
in our
sustaining model.
lifetime, especially for you Sea Org workers who were fucking, excuse my language,
Yeah.
beaten
Yeah.
down
Yeah.
with the stuff. And right now it's a funny thing. Right now there's 4,500-ish Sea Org workers.
Yep.
Right now, I
Yep.
know this for a fact. 4,500 millions of members, right? But we can only get 4,500 Sea Org members.
Right. And most of them are teenagers and second gens, right? So.
Right, teenagers, second gens, or not from this country, or from Venezuela, or
Exactly.
most of the Sea Org workers in an org right now are not from this country.
Right.
No, unless you're in LA or Clearwater, just
crazy. All right, man. I'm going to let you go because I got another call to take.
Chris, great talking to you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you for calling, and good talking to you too, man. Talk to you soon.
Good talking. Yeah, bye.
All right. That was cool. And here's Henny, I believe. Hello.
Hi.
Henny.
Hi, Chris. Good evening. Hey, how are you?
I am good. How
you
are
doing?
you?
Okay, I'm good. My phone has been acting crazy all week, so I'm trying to do the best I can. I hope that you can hear me and we can have a decent conversation.
You're coming in loud and clear. I'm hearing you perfectly.
Oh, terrific. I'm glad. That gentleman that just called was very knowledgeable about a lot of stuff, and he gave a lot of good information. That was really cool. He was a good caller.
Thank you. Yeah, I thought so too.
You're right. We do have a good crew. Listen, we really do. I was trying to pick a lawyer's brain, as you were, this week with regard to I was specific with Valerie Haney's case,
Mm-hmm.
And remember we were talking a little bit about whether it was criminal or civil and what the differences were, and okay. So basically, because she signed a contract,
Mm-hmm.
regardless if it was under duress or whatever, the contract is binding, and that's why it wasn't criminal.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
So, okay. So that's my understanding. Okay. You know what? Laws are made to be changed, and they are just being changed now around the world with regard to children, okay, who were molested by either the clergy or whoever was in charge, parents. There is no more statute of limitations. Did you hear about that?
I did hear about that. And the other thing that's happening as well, and you might have more, but I wanted to let you know also, in the UK at least, there is the coercive control law too.
Yes, that I learned from you, whether it was domestic, like with partners or husband and wives you were talking about, right?
That's right. That's right. And it has not yet been applied in a cult paradigm that we know of, and it might need some modification to get there. But this is a baby. But this is not a baby step. This is actually a very solid step forward in that direction in the UK, and that's good because our laws are, our whole system was based on the UK system, and stuff can translate pretty easily back and forth between our countries, I think.
Well, there is now a youth, I believe it's called #Kids Too.
Oh.
Movement. Okay.
Great.
Yes. And I personally, and yes, like I said, they're starting to change the laws with regards to the rape. I call it what it is, and abuse of children, and that there are no more statute of limitations. So here's my thinking.
Yep.
Okay? And you tell me what you think. Now, again, I'm going to pick this lawyer's brain, believe me, the best I can. He has a limited amount of time, but so do I, okay?
Sure.
So we'll try to get everything done. My question is this. This is not her first contract that she signed.
Mm-hmm.
Can't be.
Mm-hmm.
Not with Scientology.
Mm.
She had to sign contracts as a child with regard to giving 1 billion years of her life that she don't even know what tomorrow she's eating.
Yes.
Do you follow what I'm saying?
Sure, I do.
Okay, and this is in a cultic situation.
Mm-hmm.
This type of coercive thinking, and I was thinking also about what you said, how the parents sign away the rights. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and you did like this with your hand, like actually signing, and I thought to myself, wait a minute. I know, because I adore you, Chris. I thought to myself, if a parent was legally signing away a child to someone or an organization,
Mm-hmm.
what is their responsibility in the care, the education, the well-being of this child?
That's right. It's a big one.
Why is there? That's right. Why is there not some responsibility on the taker and keeper of this child? If not, why not? Go ahead.
Well, the reason.
I know.
Okay, I'll tell you. I'll tell you the real reason, the honest, practical reason, and that is because the person that they are signed over to is a Scientologist or Sea. If they're joining the Sea Org, it's a Sea Org member. And it's somebody who's not going to turn. Mm-hmm.
Right. But still, there has to be some responsibility. It's like, Chris, it's like an adoption. Is it not?
Oh, no. A guardianship is not like an adoption. It's very different. Let me let everybody know this because I think you might know this from my earlier talks on this topic, but I was a guardian for a minor who joined the Sea Org when I was in the Sea Org. And it was literally the entirety of my involvement with her was signing a piece of paper at my desk one day. Chris, sign this. We need you to be her guardian. Oh, okay. I then, am this person's guardian. And I go, all right, I'll be legally responsible for them. And what that meant practically for me as a Sea Org member is if she had to go to the hospital, if she had, some kind of emergency, I'd be the one signing any papers. And fortunately, that never happened while she was a minor. But that was the sum total
and how old were you?
That was my understanding.
How old were you?
I was in my mid to late 20s. I'm just letting you know what happens inside.
I know. You hear me humming, right? You hear me humming. That's my,
I know.
Yeah, that's my middle finger that goes up. Right. I swear. Let me tell you something. Well, then I have to bank on that, the child laws.
Yes.
And when children are made to sign contracts, and we got into this briefly also, well, it varies from state to state. Well, we need to change it from state to state. Has to be a worldwide thing.
I agree. Okay? Yeah, I agree.
If we've learned anything from what's been happening is that things have to be worldwide. We have to be connected worldwide. And this cannot go on. Child abuse cannot go on.
No.
And you cannot enter into a contract with a child. You cannot.
I agree. I completely agree.
And all these second generations, second gen, third gen, have signed contracts as children. They must have like Mike said, a bonfire. That's what it must be like, because they know that they made all these children sign these contracts.
Yeah.
They know they did.
Right.
How many of you didn't? And at what age? I mean, if you're all that left, if everybody that left thought about it, what age were you meant to sign a contract?
Yeah. I mean, I started signing them when I was 15 years old.
Okay. Well, you couldn't even have a permit at 15 years old.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't have been signing any contracts. That's the way I look at it.
I
But
agree.
that's the way I am.
All right, Annie. Well,
Okay.
thank you very much for that.
All right. I'm so glad that we got off the election for a while. I really needed a break because my brain was ready to really fucking explode. Sorry.
No problem.
So this was good, and love to you and Melissa and Seven. You rock.
Thanks, Annie. You rock too. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks. Nice.
All right, folks. Good. All right, let's check back in with Seven real fast before I forget. So there is our next check-in, and he's still... This is not the same shot as before. This is him still sitting there. This is what he does for hours on end. Is he'll just do exactly that. So I'll be sitting to the right there, and Melissa usually sits on the left side of the couch there, but Melissa's sleeping right now, so he's having a good time up on the couch. All right, so that is our Seven check-in. Now, also, I got asked a question I saw earlier, a couple questions here, and I am more than happy to answer them for you guys. First one was, what Aftermath episodes was I in, or were I in? I was in 2, and unfortunately on Netflix, I didn't see the first episode I was in, and that's because it was a bonus episode. So I don't know if it's in the lineup there, but I didn't see it in the lineup. It was a special Ask Me Anything episode, and I got to talk with Leah and Mike about RPF and a few other things for a little bit. And then I'm in the last episode, the final season 3 finale. I got to stand up in the audience near the end of the show and say some things about somebody dying on the purification rundown, and when I was overseeing that. So not overseeing that directly, but you know how that happened and how it was covered up by the church. So so that's the answer to that question. And then Copy Trading asked me here, Chris, in a perfect world, do you miss anything about life in Scientology? Nope, I do not. And I can say that after years of reflection. I mean, that just kind of rolls right off as though I'm not thinking about it, but I've actually been asked that question many times. And I have said before, I believe I've said that I missed the certainty, but I kind of don't really miss that anymore because I've sort of changed my view about certainty. And I don't know that certainty is such a great thing. You know, it leads to a lot of extremist thinking and a lot of black and white thinking and a lot of nonsense. And I think uncertainty is a more positive driver and actually a more native condition for us human beings. So I think pretending to have this total certainty that everything is exactly this way and I have found the truth with a capital T and all of that is pretty much for the birds at this point. I don't have that view anymore at all. And it's been a pretty radical shift because 8 years ago, my head was in a very, very different place from that. So, all right. What are people getting out of cults? Yeah. All right, cool, guys. So let me check in on a couple of things here. And again, 984-214-4154 if you would like to call in and talk. I am right here and more than happy to do so. Yeah, I miss the certainty in my former religion, the cult, JWs. Yeah, it's a thing. It's addictive. It's fascinating. And I don't try to paint it out as like this is a choice everybody should be making, but you know, it's for me. I've learned a lot since getting out of Scientology, and I've learned that there is a humility in knowing things. There's an uncertainty in knowing things. The more you know, the more you realize how much you don't know. And that's a way more healthy headspace, I think, than the cult headspace of certainty. And that's and where I used to miss that, and it used to have some appeal to me. You know, now it doesn't. Oh yeah, how's the master's going? Good. The school's going well. I'm still settled in. This week, honestly, pretty distracted. I was pretty distracted this week. So did a lot of study, watched The Vow, season 1 of The Vow, spent a lot of time doing that. Let me talk about that a little bit, actually. Yes, that's right. That's right. 12 weeks of paid time off. Yes, we are very happy about Prop 118. I definitely voted for that. Okay, the vow, NXIVM. I wanted to talk a little bit about this here tonight in the show because I've been asked about the vow. People have asked me about Keith Raniere. I think I was always saying his name wrong in the past. It was never really clear how to say it. I think I was saying Renier or Renier or something. Anyway, Raniere, Raniere. Anyway, Keith. Vanguard. That was the title he liked. Was to be called Vanguard. I guess in the same way Hubbard liked to consider himself Source. But they had the same. What was interesting, and The Vow is not a show you watch to learn all about what NXIVM is. It's a show to watch how somebody realizes that they're in a cult and how they got out of it. In fact, how a group of people did, and the difficulties and struggles of that. Oh, thank you, Copy Trading, for that super chat. Appreciate that. Yeah, so the vow is a real good lens on the individual getting into and waking up from the cult. And there were so many parallels to my experience in and out of Scientology with this show. And I knew there would be, but it actually really kind of surprised me a little bit how much was there. And a lot of that is because Raniere was taking from Scientology postulate, at cause, being at effect, that whole concept just lifted right out of Scientology. So he wasn't doing a religion, but his business thing was built up on psychological principles, neuro-linguistic programming, and straight up manipulation techniques, and just shit that he was making up on his own. And he was just kind of one of those guru guys who people heard a few things that sounded amazing from him. He would say things or offer things that were insightful to people, and they were primed for him to give them this big insight. And it just kind of grew and grew and grew. And then you get into his backstory and and then it really gets interesting because this guy's been a scammer for years, just like Hubbard was. Different in terms of he wasn't a writer, but the scam mindset was there from the get-go. And so it was pretty interesting watching that whole breakdown of that show. I'm looking forward to watching Seduced, which I think Rachel Bernstein's in, and seeing some of the tech. Oh, that's the other thing. They call it the tech. Oh, hey, thanks, Dylan. Thank you very much for that super chat. Awesome. Very generous. In NXIVM, just like in Scientology, they have a technology that they are supposedly using. And there's a lot of workbooks, and there's a lot of drills and practical exercises. And there's very little of that covered in The Vow. So I look forward to seeing these other shows about NXIVM and seeing how they break down the quote-unquote tech of NXIVM, because I think there will be a lot more there for me to break down in terms of differences and similarities between these two practices. One clearly derived from the other, or at least taking elements from it. I'll go that far. In a very similar way to the way that EST, for those of you who don't know, Earhart seminar trainings from the 1970s forward, which became Landmark and Forum and the Forum. These are a large group awareness trainings. These are called LGATs. And they are another form of cultic influence in the business world mainly, also used heavily in the MLM world. But anyway, there's a lot of stuff there, and it's all based on these mind control, mind manipulation, thought reform, and they are what I'm gonna keep using the word cult, but I'm gonna try to also bring in or bring more a high control group, extremist group. I think these are also important ways to describe these things. I don't know what you guys think about that. You can let me know. Yeah, thanks, Dylan. That is awesome, man. So, okay, good. Let us Let us check in with 7 again. I think that'll be the last step. He's still there. Last check-in with 7. And yep, okay, good. Checking in on the caller queue here. And then I wanted to do one other thing. Okay, good. That's our 7. He's probably going to end the show, go out there. He's going to be sitting there all night. Exactly. His tail. That's all that moves. And sometimes sometimes he hits you with it. I wanted to see. Yep, looks the same as it did when we started the show. Just checking in on the live results of the presidential election, since the show is election and stuff. And I'm actually glad to take a break from that. I was really more than happy to answer your questions about Scientology stuff. 253 electoral votes to Trump's 213 right now. And remember, the magic number is 270. 270 electoral votes, you are president. That's how our system works. Popular vote, Biden is ahead of Trump. If you look at the big figures, I think it was about 4 or 5. I think it was 4 point something million votes ahead of Trump, which is like 1.2% of the American population or something. So this has been so crazy neck and neck. But we got a long way to go still. Probably a day or 2 more of this before we get a final verdict. And a lot of bluster right now, a lot of nonsense, a lot of attempted thought reform, actually. You know, there's a lot I could say about what's going on right now in terms of the media manipulation and attempted media manipulation of thoughts, of hearts and minds out there. So, yeah, so it's pretty bad. I would avoid, if I were any of you, as Dylan says, you get on Fox, you just want to throw up watching Hannity. I would really recommend for your mental health, keeping social media a limited activity. And I'm talking here about Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, these platforms. And I highly recommend also for your mental health that you check in and out on the news. You know, don't just leave it on in the background. Don't just have it playing all the time. All that shit goes right in your brain, whether you're aware of it or not. It's going in, and some of it's kind of unsavory. So best to just sort of take it in small doses. Get the news, stay informed, get what you need, but you know, let's keep the freak out levels to a minimum if we can. And the best way to do that is to not let ourselves go into places which are, you know, storms of turbulent nonsense, which is kind of what social media basically is. And it's really not much of a reality. So that's the best advice I can give on that. I have been cutting out social media gradually out of my life more and more for a year now, and it has, and it's still there. It's still an addictive factor, and it's still something I find myself, you know, plunging into the depths of sometimes. But it is easier and easier as you know, take less and less of your day into it. It's easier to step away from it. And as individuals really need to do that. Oh my God, thank you, Archangel, for that very generous super chat. Really appreciate that. Awesome, guys. Definitely needed. You know, times are tight these days. Things are well, they are what they are, as we all know. So hopefully we will be facing. I'm hopeful that things will start picking up, though, and I think in a number of ways they will, depending on kind of how this election goes, and also finding out how fast we get a vaccine. Yes, Dylan, I did watch The Social Dilemma, and I plug it heavily in my podcast tomorrow. And I will plug it here right now. I cannot. Everything I'm telling you about social media, almost everything, is straight out of Social Dilemma. And other sources, don't get me wrong. It's not all out of there, but that confirmed so many things I've been thinking about social media for so long. But it also gives you, The Social Dilemma is a documentary on Netflix. It should be mandatory viewing for everyone on this planet. It is the going clear of social media. It will tell you things. If you haven't seen it, it's going to tell you things about social media you really need to know. because you're not necessarily aware of just what these platforms are about and how they work. And when you learn how the sausage is made, when you get the behind the scenes picture from whistleblowers who are coming forward and talking about how they built this technology without any understanding of what they were doing, and now that they see the disastrous consequences of it, they're trying to, put on the air brakes. You really will change your views about using Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc. So, all right. Cool, guys. Yeah, and and yet social media is how I'm able to talk to you guys through YouTube. So I really want to reform it. I don't want to get rid of it. I want to reform it, and it's possible to do. And if you watch the shows, you'll see what I'm talking about. It's a deep problem. It's a fundamental problem. I believe it is a very, very, very serious problem, but it's not an unsolvable problem. So fingers crossed that we can figure that out. All right, guys. So I think we should probably move toward wrapping up. You guys have been awesome this week. If you do have any questions for me right now, though, oh, wait a minute. What am I saying? I've got a call in the queue. I am pulling this up right now. Hello.
Yeah, I'm over here in the West Coast. So last time I heard your show started at 6. I thought it started at 6 Pacific time.
Yes, I changed the time on you. Sorry about that.
But you're just talking about social media, and a good friend of mine tried to get me on, talk me to get on to get a Facebook page, but I refused to because I feel like you're putting too much of yourself out there.
That's right.
People put down where they work, the best if they walk home, what the best route they take to get home, and so you just put way too much out there and painting a bullseye on yourself. I
agree. I think that's I think that's spot on, and I think it's one of the things we need to curb with all of this.
And so that's why I never got on. I never got on Facebook. But everybody expects me to be on it. I was looking for a place to rent one time, and when I told the possible landlord, they asked me what my Facebook page was. I said I don't have one. They had kind of a shocked look on their face, like what?
Yeah, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. So I think if we could reform these things, we could make them a little safer for people to use. Excuse me.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, I saw a story a while back on TV about this poor girl who's real heavy to social media, and some cop got killed, and she boxed it, used the wrong emoji, and next notice, like everybody was gunning for her.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very unforgiving platform. Facebook especially, and Twitter, if I am being totally actually. And that's part of the problem, is that it generates that kind of divisive anger. And we really need to change these things so that can be toned down and we can bring the volume down, because it's purposefully designed in such a way that, because of the way our psychology works using these platforms, it brings out the worst in us.
Yeah, and it seems like Facebook is always getting hacked.
Yes, there is that too. That's right.
And Facebook, that stupid kid, I don't think he's mature enough to realize, I don't think he's mature enough to really, I don't think it has really sunk into him. It's like he's just blowing it off like it's no big deal. He's not taking it very seriously.
Exactly. And that's a problem. And that's why we're calling for some regulations so that we can get some rein in on this and start controlling these platforms a little bit better. So we'll see what we can do, man. I hope we can fix it.
Yep.
All right. Well, I'm going to get going because we're going to wrap up. But thanks for calling in, man. I really appreciate hearing from you.
Yep. Okay.
All right, man. Talk to you.
Bye. Bye.
All right. Good. So we're going to wrap up now. This was a fun show. Thanks for, oh my God, fallacy of the week. Holy cow. Thank you, Lauren. You are so great indeed. Oh my God. Glad I'm paying attention to the comments because my life is crazy. I should probably get a little post-it note, write a little outline for myself of the show so I don't forget these things. All right, so we are, as you might have known from earlier weeks, we have a fallacy of the week drawn from random, from my critical thinking cards. I have a deck of cards. Each one of them is a logical fallacy or a kind of inherent cognitive bias. And drawing at random from the deck, I am pulling out false cause. All right, false cause. What is that? It is presuming that a real or perceived relationship between things means that one is the cause of the other. And of course, this would, this is based on assumption, and this is or presumption, so obviously a fallacy. Here's the example. Pointing to a fancy chart, Roger shows how temperatures have been rising over the past few centuries, whilst at the same time, the number of pirates has been decreasing. Thus, pirates cool the world and global warming is a hoax. That would be a false cause. So there is your logical fallacy for the week, guys. And I hope you might actually find some instances of that out there. I think this also falls under correlation is not causation, a phrase we like to use in the critical thinking world. And a very, very important one. Yes, these cards are wonderful to have, and I will never give them up. Okay. Yeah, global warming. Okay. Yes, exactly. Declinism. Okay, good, guys. Thank you very much for being part of the show here this week and tuning in and bringing me into your living room. I really appreciate it. I always have fun with you guys, and I'm glad you guys have fun with me. Hopefully Mel will be back next week, and Seven, of course, will always be around. So let's go ahead and wrap up.